Hi, I'm Jen, and you're listening to the Shadow Sanctuary, where I dig into the history of haunted locations to try and find a correlation between historical fact and paranormal experience. Is there a reason for the haunting? Why does energy stay? Keep listening to find out more. Welcome to the Shadow Sanctuary. I'm your host, Jen, and tonight I'm going to be telling you about Englewood Post Office in Chicago, Illinois. So let's get into it. The Chicago area was first inhabited by the Miami tribes, settled by them around 1670. The first non native settler in Chicago was Jean Baptiste Pointu-Sebul, a Frenchman who built a farm at the mouth of the Chicago River in 1788. He left Chicago in 1800. In 1795, some Native Americans ceded the area of Chicago to the United States military post. The U.S. built Fort Dearborn in 1803 on the Chicago River. It was destroyed by Indian forces during the War of 1812. After the war, the indigenous ceded the land to the United States. Fort Dearborn was rebuilt in 1818 and used until 1837. In 1829, the Illinois legislature appointed a committee to locate a canal and lay out the surrounding town. 1830 is known as the official recognition of the town of Chicago. Chicago was incorporated in 1833 and in 1840 had a major population boom. In 1848, the opening of the Illinois Michigan Canal allowed shipping through the Great Lakes to Chicago to the Mississippi River and the Gulf of Mexico. By the 1850s, the construction of the railroads made Chicago a major hub. Over 30 lines entered the city. By 1860, the city had become the nation's transshipment and warehousing center. By 1870, refrigerated cars on the trains allowed the shipping of fresh meats to cities in the east. Most of the city burned in the 1871 Great Chicago Fire, but Danish immigrant Jens Jensen arrived in 1886 and soon began the restorative landscaping work in Chicago. The World's Columbian Expedition of 1893 drew 27.5 million visitors and is considered among the most influential world fairs. This is where Herman Mudgett comes in, also known as H. H. Holmes. Born in Gilmanton, New Hampshire in 1861, his family was wealthy and he was able to pursue an early interest in medicine and surgery. He graduated from medical school at the University of Michigan. By 1885, Holmes moved to Englewood, Illinois, and adopted the name Dr. H. H. Holmes after beginning as a pharmacist. Holmes left a wife and a child in New Hampshire after being accused of fraud and murder. Holmes' murder castle was built in Englewood, a neighborhood in the south side of Chicago, in 1892. Built from scratch with winding staircases, chutes, trapdoors, soundproof rooms, acid vats, gas jets, and doors locking from the outside. The house had a first floor drugstore and third floor apartments. Holmes would cremate his victims inside of a kiln or send their bodies to medical schools needing cadavers. Holmes would prey on tourists by luring them to the home as a place to stay. His motivation was to murder people in order to steal their property. During the 1893 World's Fair in Chicago, he engaged with multiple women in order to kill them for their life savings. Once the fair closed, Holmes fled Chicago after being arrested for insurance fraud as a result of his house catching fire. Nobody knows precisely how many people were killed in the home. Estimates range from 20 to 200. Holmes was found and arrested in 1895. He was found guilty of murder, fraud, and theft and hung at Moyamensing Prison. The house was partially burned in 1895 and then used as a storage until it was torn down in 1938. The Englewood Post Office was then built on site in 1938. Workers at the Englewood post office see shadow figures in the basement and hear odd sounds as well. A portion of the basement at the post office is a portion of the basement of the murder house. The Englewood Post Office is located at 611 West 63rd Street, Chicago, Illinois. They are open from Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Saturday, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. If you pay them a visit, please be respectful as it is a public place. Hey, before you take off, I believe in supporting my friends and fellow content creators. That is why I'm sending you over to Spotify to check out singer and songwriter Kevin Milner. Check out his song, It Never Got Weird Enough for Me. Give him a follow, and you can find the link to Kevin's content on our Facebook page, The Shadow Sanctuary Podcast. That's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe. Be sure to check us out on Facebook for more information on upcoming episodes. As always, don't let the eerie vibes fade too quickly. Stay haunted, my friends.